The mechanic from the car wash held out the crumpled pack of Pall Malls, and I just stared at him, confused. "I don't smoke." "Sure you don't," he grunted, a cynical smirk on his face. "Found this under the driver's side floor mat. Here, take it." He shoved the pack into my hand, and I took it, a knot tightening in my stomach. My car and my wife were the two things I never loaned out. So how did a pack of cigarettes end up under the driver's seat? Besides me, the only person who ever drove the car was my wife, Jessica. But not only did she not smoke, she couldn't stand it when other people smoked around her. I'd quit for her when we started dating and hadn't touched a cigarette in all the years we'd been married. None of my friends smoked this brand either, which meant it wasn't dropped by one of them by accident. I opened the box. 11 cigarettes left. I pulled one out and sniffed it. It was fresh. The pack had only been opened a few days ago. I was out of town on business last week. Could they have fallen into the car then? A dark premonition crept over me. Did another man drive my car while I was away? Shit, I was overthinking it. Making a mountain out of a molehill over a single pack of cigarettes. Jessica barely drove the car, and when she did, she was a menace, always hitting curbs or scraping against poles in the parking garage. Maybe she just asked a coworker or a friend to park it for her. When I got home, Jessica had dinner on the table. In a pause between bites, I tried for a casual tone. "Hey, honey, did someone else drive the car the other day?" Jessica's eyebrows shot up. She froze for a second, then her eyes locked on mine. I pulled the pack of Pall Malls from my pocket and set it on the table. "The guy at the car wash said he found these. One of your coworkers." She nodded a little too quickly. "Oh yeah, that's Mark's. You've met him a couple of times. I couldn't get the car into that tight spot at the office, so he helped me out." I nodded slowly. "Okay, well, you should give these back to him tomorrow." I watched as she put down her fork, walked over to the entryway, and stuffed the pack into the purse hanging on hook. That simple action sent my mind racing. I'd met her coworker, Mark, a few times. He was always trying to offer me a cigarette, but he smoked Marlboro Golds. He was a department manager, for crying out loud. Why would he be smoking a cheap brand like Pall Mall? Of course, only a smoker would notice a detail like that. It was normal for Jessica to not know the difference. But something was off. Asking for help parking is nothing to hide. So why did she lie about it? My mean spoon. Making an excuse to take out the trash, I went back down to the garage and got in the car. I needed to check the dashcam. The camera records video of the road and audio from inside the car. I know for sure if someone else had been driving. I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight otherwise. I turned on the dashcam. It had a rolling archive of the last month's recordings. But the footage from the exact days I was on my business trip was gone. Deleted. If I hadn't specifically come looking for it, I never would have noticed. At that moment, one thing was crystal clear. Jessica had lied. First, I ruled out her family borrowing the car. They had their own cars, and besides, my father-in-law smoked Camels. Second, even if she had lent the car to someone, there was no reason to hide it from me. As long as there wasn't an accident, I wouldn't have cared. That left only one possibility. Jessica didn't want me to know who was driving the car. Confronting her now would be pointless. She'd just turn it around on me, and I'd be on the defensive. It seemed likely that this other man was driving the car for most of the time I was gone. If he was driving, he would have had to drop the car, and Jessica back at our condo complex. And every vehicle that enters or leaves the complex is recorded by security cameras. Under the cover of darkness, I walked to the 7-Eleven, bought a bottle of decent whiskey, and headed to the security office. I told the guard my car had been scraped, and I needed to check the footage to see who did it. "Walt, the night guard, let me look through last week's surveillance logs." I scrolled through the footage until I found it, then took a few pictures of the screen with my phone, capturing the man in the driver's seat. Walt didn't pay much attention, letting me take the photos. I walked out of the security office, struggling to contain my fury. Because of the angle of the camera, the man's face wasn't perfectly clear. Walt probably just assumed it was me. But I knew it wasn't me. I was hundreds of miles away on a business trip, and after pulling into the complex, I saw the man on the screen reach a hand over to the passenger seat and grope my wife. My head swam. It was true. Jessica was cheating on me. There were other cameras in the complex. I could check to see if they went into our building together, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I still had some pride left. If Walt found out, the entire complex would know I was a cuckold by the time I left for work in the morning. Besides, I couldn't risk tipping my hand. There was just one thing I couldn't understand. I'm a decent-looking guy, I have a respectable job, make good money, and I've always treated her well. I work out, and I know what I'm doing in bed. Why would Jessica look for someone else? And how far had things gone? Staring up at the light in our living room window, I wondered how much longer that light would be on for me. Suddenly, something caught my eye. Hanging on our balcony was one of Jessica's cycling jerseys. She loved cycling, and the jersey looked almost identical to the one the man in the security footage was wearing. Could it be someone from her cycling group? I quickly pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. Jessica loved posting pictures after rides. I scrolled through post after post, looking at dozens of group shots with her cycling buddies. After a few minutes, I found it. A photo of 6 people, 3 men and 3 women, lined up side by side. Jessica was in the middle. To her left were the other 2 women. To her right, the 3 men. The man closest to her was older, with a receding hairline. Definitely not him. I looked to the right at the last man in the line, and a jolt of recognition hit me. It was him. He was about 5'9", not tall, but you could tell he was in great shape, a clear V-taper to his torso. He had that classic pretty boy face with perfectly messy hair. He was the definition of a thirst trap. The first time he appeared in her feed was 2 years ago. We'd been married for a year and a half at that point, which meant she knew him before we were married. Was I about to star in some cliché drama about the one that got away? I couldn't let my mind go there. My first instinct was to go back upstairs and confront her to prove my worth in the bedroom, but she just said, "I'm tired," and rolled over, leaving me in the cold. Fine, I could wait. This wasn't the time to show my cards. You don't go into battle unprepared. A few days later, after I figured the cigarette incident had faded from her mind, I took Jessica shopping. I made a big show of buying a ton of new cycling gear. "Why are you suddenly buying all this stuff?" she asked, watching me load up with bags. I put on a weary expression. My boss is a cycling fanatic. He's making all the managers do this corporate cycling month thing. I'm just trying to keep up. Jessica just said, "Oh," and didn't ask any more questions. I saw a thoughtful look on her face and pretended to have a sudden idea. "Hey, most of the other managers at my company are total newbies. They don't know the first thing about buying gear or training. Do you know anyone who's, more of a professional who could help?" Jessica frowned. "I might, but I don't know if he'd have time." "Don't worry, we'd obviously pay him for his time. My bosses, they're terrible cyclists, but they have to have the absolute best gear. Your friend could take them to a shop he knows, get a nice commission on a bunch of high-end sales." Jessica's eyes lit up. "Well, I could do that." Was she trying to keep the money in the family? I paused for a second, then shook my head. "No, that wouldn't work. You're a woman, and you don't know all the technical stuff. We need a guy who really knows his stuff. Besides, you're my wife. It would be weird for us to take money from my colleagues." She thought for a moment. "Okay, let me ask him. I'll let you know." The next evening, Jessica got back early from a ride and came straight to me. "Do you still need that cycling coach for your company?" "Absolutely, but I need to talk to him first. Since I'm the one recommending him, I want to make sure I can get him the best possible rate." "Okay," she said. "Come with us on our ride tomorrow. You can talk while you ride." The next evening, I met Jessica with my brand new mountain bike at their usual spot, the Cherry Creek Reservoir Trail. The whole elaborate setup was to avoid raising her suspicions. Following her directly would have been too obvious. When we got to the trail, I saw a man waiting there. It was him. Same build, same face as the man in the security footage. He introduced himself as Ryan. He was a gym teacher at a local high school. I feigned excitement. "A gym teacher? That's perfect. With your credentials and the shape you're in, I can sell this to my boss, no problem." Jessica stood right next to us, and as I praised Ryan, I could see a flicker of pride in her eyes. Ryan just grinned and stroked his chin. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a pack of cigarettes, and offered me one. I saw the familiar red and white box of Pall Malls. My blood ran cold, but I forced a smile and took one. The high school where Ryan worked was less than a 30-minute drive from my house. Not exactly next door, but not far either. We started the ride. Ryan led the way, while Jessica seemed to deliberately hang back, keeping a noticeable distance between them. They didn't speak to each other the entire time. It was a clumsy attempt to look like strangers, betraying their inexperience. Why would a casual acquaintance get such a lucrative referral? If they had just chatted like normal friends, I wouldn't have thought twice. About 10 miles in, Ryan noticed I was getting tired and suggested we take a break. I leaned over my handlebars, head down. In the reflection of my watch face, I saw him glance back at me with a smug, arrogant look, then raise his eyebrows. Jessica was right behind me. He then looked back my way, and I lifted my head just in time to catch his eye. It was a look every man understands. A look of contemptuous victory. I didn't have time to turn and see if Jessica responded. I fought back the urge to explode right then and there and made an excuse about being tired and needing to head home. I immediately called my best friend, Leo. He was your classic trust fund kid, but instead of blowing his money on clubs and parties, he was into tinkering with the latest tech gadgets. He was a solid guy, and because his family was in business, he knew how to navigate the world. I took a sip of the whiskey Leo poured for me. Man, let's say I have this friend I started, and his wife likes to go cycling with other people, and maybe she's been messing around with one of her cycling buddies. Leo stared at me, his eyes wide. Dude, something this big is happening to you, and you're still talking about a friend? His directness caught me off guard. I dropped the act and showed him the picture of Ryan and told him what I knew. This guy seems to be getting a little too close to Jessica. I need you to find out everything you can about him. Leo nodded, his jaw tight. That son of a bitch. You want me to get some guys to take care of him? I shook my head. That would expose everything, and they could easily turn it around and play the victims. All right, man. Your call, he said. I'll get on it right away. I'll find out everything there is to know about this pretty boy. As I was about to leave, Leo stopped me. He handed me a small device that looked like a thumb drive. Alex, plug this into her phone. It'll copy everything on it. I was just messing around when I built it, but it looks like you could use it. I took the drive, a bitter smile on my face. Was I lucky or unlucky to have the perfect tool for the job fall right into my lap? When I got home, Jessica was already there. Where have you been? I thought you were coming straight home. I went to see Leo, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I had almost said the other woman. Jessica looked at me, stunned. I quickly corrected myself. Leo, my rich friend. You know him. He's working on a few new projects, and I wanted to see if there was a way to get in on the action. Really? How much capital does it need? What's the return? Hearing about money, Jessica's eyes lit up. She came from a poor family and had always been sensitive about money. I looked her straight in the eye. You know how close Leo and I are. He gave us 50 grand as a wedding gift. He's got insider info. We can't lose. It's just a question of how much we make. A brilliant smile spread across her face. That's amazing, honey. She was genuinely happy. Maybe because she felt like she'd hit the jackpot twice today. She started undressing right in front of me and shot me a seductive look before disappearing into the bathroom. A clear signal that tonight was going to be active. Normally, I never looked at her phone. It was password protected anyway, so she felt safe leaving it on the nightstand. The moment she closed the bathroom door, I grabbed the phone and plugged the drive's USB-C connector into it. Copying the contents took a while. Just a few minutes after it finished, Jessica walked out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. I made an excuse about needing to review the project files from Leo and retreated to the study. In reality, I was there to look at the contents of her phone. I took a deep breath before opening the files on my laptop. Even though I was prepared for the worst, seeing the explicit photos and videos still sent a hot surge of rage through me. I almost did something I would have spent the rest of my life regretting. I exported their chat logs into an Excel file. Even seeing it with my own eyes, it was hard to believe that my wife, Jessica, could be so wild and unrestrained with another man. It happened last week while I was on my business trip, in our own master bedroom. My blood boiled. I had to restrain myself. This wasn't the Wild West. Killing them would land me in prison, and they weren't worth it. I lit one of my old Camel Blues, and my hands slowly stopped shaking. I should have seen this coming. I just didn't want to believe it. Click. The study door opened. Honey, I thought you quit, Jessica said, looking surprised to see me smoking. I quit for her after all. Leo's project could make us a lot of money, but the initial investment is pretty big. I need to think it through, I said, amazed at my own composure. Jessica's face was a mixture of surprise and delight. She suppressed a grin. Don't overthink it. Your health is more important. I'll just think it over a little longer. You go ahead to bed, I said. As I watched her leave, a cold sneer formed on my lips. It started a fire. I was going to burn it all down, If they didn't pay back every cent with interest, then my name isn't Alex Carter. The next evening, Leo found me. Dude, I found some stuff out. I don't know if I should tell you. I punched him lightly on the shoulder. Are you kidding me? Just tell me. Leo handed me a beer and cracked one open for himself. This goes way back, man. Jessica and that pretty boy, Ryan, were high school sweethearts. They were even talking about getting married after college, lived together for 6 months. But his family didn't have any money, couldn't afford a house in the city, so her parents broke them up. Not long after, she was set up with you, and you two got married. They've been on and off ever since, but it's gotten more serious recently. It's not really a secret among their old classmates. It all clicked into place. No wonder Jessica didn't invite a single friend from high school to our wedding. I nodded, a strange sense of calm washing over me. Seeing I was taking it well, Leo added, a buddy of mine drank with that guy a few times. One night, he got wasted and bragged that Jessica had an abortion for him once. I felt nothing. The waves of emotion had already crashed and receded, leaving an empty shore. When you were asking around, I said, a little worried, we didn't tip anyone off, did you? Leo thumped his chest. You can count on me. I didn't ask directly. My friend knows how to keep his mouth shut. Ryan's friends and classmates all said the same thing about him. He was obsessed with women and money. Right on cue, I got a text from Ryan asking when I wanted to go for another ride. I knew what he really wanted to ask about, the coaching gig. A man driven by greed and lust is an easy man to manipulate. Leo, I said, do you know any beautiful women who are masters of manipulation? Leo paused for a beat, then a slow grin spread across his face. Alex, my man, is there anyone in this city I don't know? Soon after, he introduced me to a woman in her late 20s named Chloe. With makeup, she could pass for a college student. She had a tiny waist, long legs, and a soft, gentle voice. She was a pro. I briefly explained the situation to Chloe, telling her to take her time. Her job was to create a persona and string Ryan along. I would cover all her expenses, with a generous bonus upon success. Then, I replied to Ryan. I told him the corporate cycling event was on hold because some board members weren't on board. I could practically feel his disappointment through the phone. Then, I dropped the second bait. While the company event was off, a major client had heard about the plan and was very interested. She had asked me a few days ago to find her a professional coach. Ryan's spirits lifted instantly. I acted as the middleman, arranging a meeting between them. I specifically told Ryan that the client was a successful, powerful woman with high standards. He needed to be on his best behavior and remain completely professional. Don't worry, man, Ryan said, his voice buzzing with excitement. I won't let you down. For their meeting at a local coffee shop, I had Leo lend Chloe his Porsche Panamera. Ryan was already waiting outside when she arrived. I didn't go in, not wanting to affect his performance, but I watched from a distance. The Panamera pulled up to the curb. Chloe stepped out, dressed in form-fitting yoga pants and a sports top. Her body was incredible, her skin flawless. Ryan's jaw practically hit the pavement. To everyone else, Chloe was ice cold, but with Ryan, she was all smiles, warm and gentle, yet always keeping him slightly at arm's length. From the look on his face, Ryan had never experienced anything so intoxicating. It's no wonder men fall for that kind of game. One type of woman controls a man by making him feel good. The other type controls him by making him feel bad. Chloe's subtle movements, a light touch on his arm, a lingering glance, had him completely hooked. When she brought up payment, Ryan demurred, insisting they could discuss it later. Compared to Chloe's masterclass, Jessica's attempts at manipulation were amateur hour. Of course, Ryan never mentioned a word about Chloe to Jessica. With me out of the picture, he felt free to be himself. While Chloe was carefully reeling in her fish, I started setting my own trap. A few days later, I brought home the investment documents from Leo's project to show Jessica. Total investment is $1. $5 million, I explained. We should break even in about 18 months, and after that, we're guaranteed to at least double our money. Jessica was ecstatic, throwing her arms around me and kissing me. I gently pushed her away and put on a worried expression. You know our situation. We can't just pull $1. $5 million out of thin air. We only have about $300,000 in liquid assets. We'll have to figure out a way to get the other $1. 2 million. Hearing this, Jessica immediately grew anxious. She couldn't let this opportunity slip away. So what do? I laid out my plan. I've already put in the initial $300,000. For the rest, I was thinking we could mortgage the house. But to do that, we first need to pay off the remaining $500,000 on the original mortgage. Her face fell. No way. The house is our safety net. I patted her hand reassuringly. The house is in my name, since I bought it before we were married. I never got around to adding you. Don't worry. We'll use our money to pay off the bank, then I'll add your name to the deed. We could take out the new mortgage in both our names. The contract with Leo and the account for the profits will all be in your name. The house and the profits will be yours. What are you afraid of? Jessica's eyes darted back and forth as she thought it over. Then she playfully slapped my arm. That's not what I meant. It's just, the house is a huge asset. We have to be careful. I wrapped my arm around her, laughing. I'm the one who should be worried. What if you take the money and run? I'd be left with nothing but a huge debt to the bank. Her smile widened, and she lunged at me playfully. I stopped her. Business first. Once this is done, you won't even have to work anymore. We can celebrate properly then. She nodded happily. While she was in a good mood, I pressed my advantage. I'm tapped out. Is there any way you can come up with some cash to help us bridge the gap? Her smile vanished. She just stared at me, as if trying to figure out if I was setting her up. You come up with the money to pay off the loan, and I'll add your name to the deed immediately. Once the big money starts rolling in, you'll be set for life. Jessica hesitated, her expression shifting. Finally, she gritted her teeth and nodded. Okay, I'll ask my parents for a loan. It worked. I knew that when we got married, I had given her parents a gift of $30,000. I sealed the deal by taking her and her parents out for a fancy dinner, where I gave her parents $1,000 in cash as a down payment on our future success. While they were happy, I casually let something slip. Honey, that guy Ryan you introduced to my boss? The company ended up canceling the event, but I introduced him to a wealthy businesswoman instead. Did he tell you? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw both of her parents stiffen at the mention of Ryan's name. Jessica looked awkward and shook her head. No, I excused myself to go to the bathroom and listen from outside the private dining room. Sure enough, as soon as I left, her mother grabbed her arm and hissed, "What is wrong with you? Are you still seeing that loser Ryan?" Her father sighed. Jessica, I know you don't have deep feelings for Alex, but you couldn't find a better provider if you tried. You're married now, and he's on the verge of making a lot of money. You need to be smart about this. I know what I'm doing. Jessica snapped back impatiently. Meanwhile, Chloe had Ryan completely mesmerized. It was almost time to close the net. When they were together, I had a burner phone call Chloe repeatedly, pretending to be a client discussing real estate deals. While the housing market had been slow, properties in good school districts and prime locations were still holding their value. Chloe, who had actually worked in real estate, was a natural. She talked about deals and commissions with an effortless confidence that left Ryan in awe. With a little help from Leo, we faked some large bank transfers on her phone, occasionally asking Ryan to help transfer funds because of daily limits. Ryan saw that Chloe could make more money in the time it took to drink a cup of coffee than he made in several years. Unable to resist the temptation, he asked Chloe what she did for a living. She brushed him off with a vague answer. Ryan knew that people don't just give away their money-making secrets, which only made him more determined to get in on it. He begged her to let him in on the action. After some feigned hesitation, Chloe cautiously advised him, "This isn't without risk. If you have too little capital, you can easily get trapped. Figure out how much you have to invest, and consider the risks before you do anything." Ryan didn't have much money, but he wasn't about to admit that to a beautiful woman. He boasted that between his savings and the money his parents had set aside for his future marriage, he had a decent amount to invest. He urged her to bring him along. Chloe pretended to be very fond of him and agreed to help him out. She took him to the sales office of an out-of-state property development. The office was lavishly decorated and packed with people. Ryan, who had never bought property before, had never seen anything like the feeding frenzy. He'd heard on the news that the real estate market was in a slump, but what he was seeing was the complete opposite. The sales manager greeted Chloe like a VIP and escorted them to a private office. She whispered to Ryan that the pre-sale price for the apartments was about $150 per square foot, and they weren't even officially on the market yet. A number of units were being held back for internal sales at about 80% of the market price. At this point, Chloe again warned Ryan to only invest what he could afford. Then, she put down a deposit on 2 apartments. Because of a 1-unit per person limit, she put one of them in Ryan's name. Less than a week later, the apartment in his name was sold. After taxes and fees, Chloe made a net profit of $200,000, and the money passed through Ryan's bank account. Ryan was ecstatic. He saw this as a sign of Chloe's trust and affection for him. He was completely hooked. He begged Chloe to help him get another unit. She told him to get the money ready, and they would make the transaction in a few days. On my end, the day after the dinner with Jessica and her parents, they transferred the money to her. I told Jessica that Leo's project wouldn't start for another month, so we could wait to pay off the mortgage and save a month's interest. She didn't suspect a thing. She had no idea that the money was, from the very beginning, intended for Ryan. I secretly installed cameras in our house, and then left on a fake business trip. Sure enough, that night, Ryan came over. As soon as they saw each other, it was like a scene from a movie. Halfway through, Jessica pushed Ryan away. "Are you seeing someone else?" she demanded. Watching on my phone, I almost laughed out loud. The cheater asking the other cheater if he was cheating. Ryan, looking guilty, quickly explained, "I'm only getting close to that rich client to make money for our future." In his telling, the client was an old, wealthy woman who lusted after him, but he had remained faithful, never crossing the line. He said he'd been so focused on making money to buy a house for Jessica that he had been neglecting her. He claimed that after much effort, he had finally convinced Chloe to let him in on an investment. To secure a better future for Jessica, he had taken out $50,000 in high-interest online loans and scraped together another $25,000 from friends. But he was still about $30,000 short of what he needed to buy the investment property outright. He wanted Jessica to lend him the money. Jessica might have been blinded by love, but she wasn't a complete idiot. She didn't agree right away. Then Ryan began his performance. He reminisced about their past, painted a glowing picture of their future, and even squeezed out a few tears. I had to admit, he was good. Finally, he showed her his bank statements, proving that he could make a $50,000 profit on a single flip. That, combined with his physical persuasion, convinced her. The next day, Ryan, armed with a huge sum of money, went with Chloe to the sales office and signed the papers. When I returned home, Jessica was unusually attentive and caring. I wondered if it was guilt. "There's a problem with the permits for my buddy's project. It's going to be delayed for a while," I said, watching her face. "Why don't we just go ahead and pay off the mortgage and get your name on the deed now?" Jessica's expression flickered. She stammered for a moment. There's no rush. I put the money in a short-term CD a few days ago. It'll be another week or so before I can get it out." I nodded, pretending to believe her. Meanwhile, Chloe told me Ryan was already getting antsy, asking her to help him sell the property, even if it meant taking a smaller profit. I paid Chloe her commission, but she only took half. "I should be thanking you, Alex. You helped me unload a couple of properties I've been stuck with for ages. I made over 20 grand in commissions myself." Seeing how sharp she was, I didn't argue. Over the next few days, Chloe kept stalling. As the date Jessica had mentioned for her CD approached, she started pressuring Ryan. He was getting scared too, begging Chloe to help him sell. Chloe explained that there weren't many buyers at the moment, but if he was really in a hurry, she could try to work something out. The details, she said, needed to be discussed at a hotel. She told him to book a room. Ryan thought he'd hit the jackpot. He eagerly booked a room. Chloe showed up at his door, wearing a short skirt and a camisole. Ryan was practically drooling. "Ryan," Chloe said, looking embarrassed, "my money is tied up in the stock market right now, so I can't buy the property from you. But maybe there's something else I can do for you." Hearing this, Ryan felt guilty for having pressured her. After some heavy petting, Ryan went to take a shower. Just before this, I had used a burner phone to let Jessica know what was happening. Jessica stormed into the hotel while I watched from a hidden corner down the hall. Chloe and I had timed it perfectly. She opened the door just as Jessica arrived. The first thing Jessica saw was Chloe, looking stunningly beautiful, and then Ryan, sitting on the edge of the bed in nothing but a small towel, sipping red wine. Jessica stood in the doorway, her rage building. Chloe, seeing her cue, quickly backed away. What followed was a screaming match between Jessica and Ryan, with the hotel room door wide open. Chloe seized the moment, bursting into tears. "Ryan, you have a girlfriend? You lied to me. I never want to see you again." What? She ran off down the hall, wiping away fake tears. Ryan, seeing his perfect opportunity ruined by Jessica, and comparing Chloe's gentle, beautiful, and kind demeanor to Jessica's stingy, unreasonable, and controlling nature, snapped. He shoved Jessica hard. About half an hour later, Jessica texted me that she missed her mom and was going to spend the night at her parents' house. I rushed over to her parents' place, just to see the look on her face. When I saw her, she wasn't exactly black and blue, but she was close. "Honey, what happened? Who did this to you?" "I'll kill him," I shouted, making a move like I was about to charge out the door. Jessica quickly grabbed my arm. "No, honey, it's nothing. I fell down the stairs. I didn't want you to worry, so I came here." I almost burst out laughing. I forced it down. "It's okay, honey. In a few days, when your CD matures, we can get your name on the deed. Everything will be fine, huh?" The look on Jessica's face was worse than if she'd swallowed a bug. Her father asked what happened. I quickly explained about Leo's project being delayed and Jessica's CD, but her father looked at her with suspicion, then pulled her into another room. Her mother tactfully suggested I go home. As I was leaving, I distinctly heard the sharp sound of slap from inside the room. Jessica came home the next day. Even with heavy makeup, she couldn't hide her swollen cheek. She looked exhausted but forced a smile and was incredibly attentive to me. "What's wrong? Did you fight with your parents?" "Don't worry, they're just looking out for us. Worried we'll get scammed. By the way, were you able to get that money out?" Every word was a dagger in her heart, but she could only swallow the pain. Another 2 weeks passed. Jessica grew visibly haggard. One night at dinner, I brought it up. "Honey, my buddy's project is back on. Let's go to the bank, pay off the loan, and then apply for the new mortgage." Jessica stammered, unable to find an excuse. Finally, realizing she couldn't hide it any longer, she confessed. I'm so sorry, honey. I lent the money to a friend. I can't get it back right now." I feigned shock, my eyes wide. What friend did you lend over $30,000 to?" She mumbled Ryan's name. Pretending not to know about their relationship, I slammed my silverware on the table. "Don't worry, honey. Tomorrow, we'll go to his school and get it back. He can't run from us there." When we found Ryan, he was still smiling, saying he just needed a few more days to pay it back. I turned to Jessica. "What do you think we should do?" Jessica, cornered and knowing her relationship with Ryan was over, turned red with fury. "Ryan, you give me an answer today, or I'll tell this entire school what you've done." Forced into a corner, Ryan finally told us the truth. The property was a scam. The developer had taken the money and run, leaving an unfinished building. He had invested over $100,000, but that was just the down payment. The contract was for a property worth $300,000, meaning he was now on the hook for a $200,000 bank loan for a worthless shell of the building. Desperate, Ryan pointed a trembling finger at me. "It's all your fault. You introduced me to that woman. She's a con artist." I held up my hands. "I just introduced you as a cycling coach. I didn't tell you to do anything else with her. If you think you've been scammed, you should go to the police." I already knew he had gone to see Chloe. She hadn't lied. She was a property flipper. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Her money was gone too. All of Ryan's transactions were with the developer, not her. She had even advised him to report it to the police. He had, but all his evidence pointed to the sales office. There was no record of any transactions with Chloe or any messages from her urging him to buy. Recalling the nightmare of the past few weeks, Ryan blamed everything on me. "It's you, Alex. You did this to me." He grew more agitated, grabbing my collar, his eyes red. He let out a crazy laugh. "Don't get too comfortable, Alex. Your wife." Jessica tried to stop him, but he kicked her away, his eyes wild. "Your wife and I have been together since high school. I've been with her more times than you can count. You've been wearing the biggest pair of horns in town, Alex. You've just been playing with my leftovers." In my mind, I applauded him. He hadn't noticed the crowd of teachers and students that had gathered, listening to his entire spectacular speech. Jessica, furious, lunged at him, and they started fighting. I took the opportunity to slip away from the chaos, got in my car, and drove off, leaving the mess behind me. I blocked Jessica's number. A few minutes later, her father called. "Alex, don't listen to those rumors. It's all lies. Do you believe that yourself?" I said coldly. "Everyone around you knew. I was the only one in the dark." He was speechless. Then he changed his tactic. "Jessica is a mess. She's talking about killing herself. If anything happens to her, I'll hold you responsible." I scoffed. "Let me get this straight. Ryan scammed your daughter out of her money. She slept with Ryan. I'm the one who got cheated on. And now, if she hurts herself, it's my fault? Come on, son-in-law. People make mistakes. Why don't you go out and find someone yourself? Then you'll be even." I hung up. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The next day, Jessica contacted me to demand a divorce. In her proposed settlement, she wanted half the house and for me to pay back half the money she had borrowed from her parents. I almost laughed. I refused and filed for divorce myself. The house was my premarital property. I had made all the mortgage payments, and I had ironclad proof of her infidelity. In the end, Jessica walked away with nothing. When she saw Chloe and Leo sitting with me in the courtroom gallery, she finally realized it had all been a setup. She and her parents started screaming at me, and then they tried to attack me. They were escorted out by the bailiffs. Outside the courthouse, I looked at Chloe. "Aren't you afraid Ryan will come after you?" She laughed. "That pathetic loser? He wouldn't have the guts to touch me even if I handed him a knife." "Alex," Leo asked, "do you think those two trash bags will get back together?" I shook my head. "Who knows? I mean, Ryan technically owns a $300,000 property now. Maybe the developer will have a crisis of conscience and finish the building." I pulled out a cigarette and handed one to Leo. "Since when did you start smoking these?" he asked. I lit both our cigarettes, then tossed the rest of the pack of Pall Malls into a nearby trash can. "Just this once," I said. "I'm done with this brand for good."